I do not support Evan Johnson in any way, shape, or form, and let me make that fucking clear. I don't support him, I don't support violence against women, and I sure as hell do not support the disgusting, deplorable, violent, heinous acts that he committed against Kayla Malik behind closed doors.
Justice was served. Kayla Malik just won her DV case against ex-boyfriend Evan Johnson.
I won. Fucker's in jail right now. Fucker got arrested.
I really fucking hope and pray that when this goes to court this week, Kayla gets justice for what that man put her through. At the same time, the videos that I'm currently seeing all over my For You page are disturbing to me.
And James Charles has finally responded. This interview put James under a lot of backlash, where he was accused by Zach Sellers of sleeping with Evan Johnson despite knowing he's an abuser. And the downfall of James has been insane. In the past week, he's lost about 1 million followers on TikTok. People have been waiting for James to respond to the situation, and after Kayla revealed that she had won the case, he made a 10-minute response video which has now been deleted.
Evan Johnson and I did not in any way, shape, or form have a physically sexual relationship.
James states that he does not support Evan Johnson and dropped a few receipts. He shared this conversation he had with Kayla back in January, where she said that Evan is crazy, and Kayla expressed her frustration that she gave Evan a platform despite his lies and abuse.
This is not TikTok tea and drama for everyone else's entertainment. This is real people dealing with some really serious shit. The conversation has completely shifted focus away from Kayla Malik and how she was brave enough to speak out about what she went through to how James Charles involved. The downfall, Bye Sister 2.0, where's the apology video? It's distracting.
Abuse. And despite that, he asked Kayla if he can have Evan for himself. Now, James claims that he had a friendship with Evan long before he knew about any of the horrific allegations. It seems like James was thinking with the wrong head. Now, in this interview, Zach claimed that James slept with Evan and has the evidence to back it up. James strongly denies these allegations and told Zach that if he really does have the S-tape, then to drop it.
The actual issue at hand, which is domestic violence. I have not spoken out about this for a couple of different reasons. The main one being, this is going to court this week. Anything I or anybody else says online can and probably will be used by either Evan's defense attorney or the judge to affect the outcome of its ruling.
James Charles is being outed for allegedly having a relationship with Kayla Malik's ex, Evan Johnston. Now, Evan Johnston is going to court with Kayla in just 1 week because of domestic abuse charges that she has filed.
Post it. If you have the receipt, if you have the video evidence, you can upload it. You have my full consent and permission. I've had far worse posted to me online that I didn't consent to. Go right ahead. But you can't because there is no video of something that did not happen.
What if your entire comeback, years of silence, brand deals, family reunions, got torched by a single Instagram story? That's exactly what just happened to James Charles. At exactly 7:02 p.m. on May 6, 2025, James dropped a crisp white slide on his story with 7 words in bold. I do not support Evan Johnson. Period. No apology. No context. Just a digital disclaimer. And that one sentence, it blew open a rabbit hole TikTok has been spiraling down for days. Because what James didn't say might matter more than what he did. Let's back up. Evan Johnson is the ex-boyfriend of TikToker Kayla Malik, who just won her domestic violence case against him in Tennessee. And James Charles, makeup mogul, serial apologist, cancellation survivor, has been accused of staying close to Evan after those allegations were public. Not just friendly, allegedly texting him, coaching him to stay silent.
So this is Evan and Kayla. Kayla has 15 million followers on TikTok, and she recently came out exposing everything that she dealt with while dating Evan.
And maybe more. Screenshots have surfaced. Dimes are flying. People who gave James a second or third chance. They're logging out. And that story, instead of clearing things up, it's made the backlash louder. Way louder. Why was James even connected to Evan in the first place? Why did it take a court date for him to speak up? And why does this whole situation feel eerily familiar, like we've seen this movie before? In this video, we're diving deep into the spiraling timeline that's now being called James Charles's fastest cancellation yet, from shady receipts and legal threats to the mass unfollowing that's bleeding his TikTok follower count by the minute. If you thought Dramageddon was bad, this might just be James's final act. But hold up, this isn't just about James. It's about the influencer machine, what we forgive, and who gets to keep bouncing back. Because the internet wants answers. And so far, all we've gotten is a Notes app slide. And what comes next might just flip the whole story upside down. On May 6th, James Charles quietly dropped a statement on his Instagram story. 7 words, no voice, no video. just a note that read, "I do not support Evan Johnson."
Kayla's been posting update videos to let everyone know how she's doing. She's going to court with Evan in just 1 week, and she's recently posted that a good friend of hers actually leaked her new address to her ex, Evan.
Period, a line that was supposed to shut down rumors, but instead, it lit them on fire. Less than 24 hours later, in a Tennessee courtroom, Kayla Malik won her case against Evan Johnson, her ex-boyfriend, who was then arrested in the courtroom. Yes, that same Evan Johnson who James was accused of advising just weeks earlier. So here's the problem. While Kayla was preparing for court, James was deleting comments, staying silent, and being suspiciously low-key. Fans noticed, commentators noticed, and when that story finally dropped, after the receipts, after the accusations, after the silence, it felt more like a calculated PR move than genuine concern. The timing? Impeccable. Or suspicious, depending on how you see it. Because by the time James decided to speak, TikTok was already deep into a conspiracy spiral. Videos were dissecting alleged DMS between him and Evan. Screenshots claimed James had been coaching Evan to keep quiet. Not only that, he was reportedly still hanging out with Evan this year, despite knowing Kayla and allegedly being friends with her. The optics? Ugly. So that IG story? It wasn't a lifeline. It was a band-aid on a bullet wound. And to make it worse, James framed it as if he had already taken a private stand, saying, "I am hoping and praying that Kayla gets justice tomorrow, as I promised her privately." But why promise her privately if your actions publicly tell a different story? People don't just want a denial.
Now, because she's going to court, obviously she can't talk about everything right now, but she has been sharing quite a bit, and she says she's going to be sharing everything as soon as court is over. Now, this, of course, is James Charles. 41 million followers on his TikTok account.
They want accountability. And as Kayla stood in a courtroom testifying, James was posting makeup tutorials. The contrast? Blinding. Now the internet is asking the one question that's haunted James since his first scandal. Has he actually changed? Or just gotten better at hiding? And just when people thought things couldn't get worse, James's followers started disappearing. Fast. By the morning of May 8th, it wasn't just drama channels talking, it was everyone. Because James Charles's follower count wasn't just dipping, it was plummeting. In less than 48 hours, over 700,000 people unfollowed him on TikTok. That's not a slow decline, that's a digital evacuation. And it wasn't just casual fans. It was the people who had stuck by James through the worst, who had weathered the old scandals, the Toddy Westbrook fallout, the Jeffree Star chaos. They were done. Why? Because this wasn't just another oops moment. This felt different. For a lot of viewers, it was the betrayal, not just of Kayla, but of their own trust. The trust they rebuilt after giving James yet another chance. They believed he had grown up, matured, changed. But when screenshots came out showing James allegedly advising Evan Johnson, the same man Kayla Malik accused of violence, to stay silent, that trust cracked wide open. And as TikTok dissected every DM, every whisper, every timeline inconsistency,
James Charles needs to be canceled. This man already has so many allegations and has now been exposed for sleeping with Evan Johnson, aka the guy who broke Kayla's jaw.
the floodgates opened. Young fans who had only discovered James in the post-cancellation era were stunned. They had no idea about Dramageddon, no idea about the past grooming accusations, no clue why the phrase "bye sister" still triggers a whole generation of YouTube survivors. Creators started resurfacing old apology videos. People stitched clips of James saying, "I've grown so much, I'm not that person anymore," next to new allegations. One comment summed it up best. He's not sorry. He just got better at PR. And for some, this wasn't just about James. It was about the culture of influencers getting too many second chances, about the industry's immunity shield around beauty creators who bring clicks, views, and ad dollars. Now, sponsors are watching. TikTok is dragging. YouTube comments are on fire. And people who once proudly followed James are posting videos of themselves hitting unfollow with captions like, "I gave you grace. You gave me gaslight." In the world of influencers, numbers are everything. And when the numbers start vanishing this fast, it's not just a scandal, it's a signal that the internet's patience is officially running out. And as fans abandoned ship, the next bombshell was already loading. Screenshots of James and Evan's alleged DMs. And trust us, those were even messier. If there's one thing that kills a carefully crafted statement, it's receipts. And in James Charles's case, the internet came armed. Just as his "I don't support Evan Johnson" story hit Instagram, screenshots started circulating that painted a very different picture. Alleged DMS showed James chatting with Evan Johnson after the abuse allegations had surfaced. And worse, he wasn't confronting him or cutting him off. He was allegedly advising him to lay low.
The worst part is James Charles went behind his friend Kayla's back to house her prisoner boyfriend before his trial, which is crazy. The fact that the internet still allows James to have a brand just because is crazy, because why are you guys collectively choosing who to cancel?
One of the leaked messages, allegedly from James, said something to the effect of, "Just don't say anything, trust me, silence is safest." Now, on its own, that might not raise alarms. But in context, it hit like gasoline on a wildfire. Because Evan wasn't just some random friend. He was Kayla Malik's ex-boyfriend, the same man now convicted of abuse, the same man James was allegedly hanging out with, while publicly following Kayla and interacting with her content. Let that sink in. Kayla had been open about the trauma she endured. She made 2 separate YouTube videos detailing her experience. And while she was doing that, James was allegedly getting close with the guy she said hurt her. Not just close, connected enough to offer advice. That's what fans are calling emotional betrayal disguised as friendship. And to make it even worse, James allegedly admitted in another message that he had hung out with Evan earlier this year. That was a gut punch for many, especially since some believed James and Kayla were on good terms. So, when James finally posted his story distancing himself from Evan, fans didn't hear courage, they heard cowardice. Too little, way too late. One tweet said it best: he was playing both sides. Publicly Kayla's friend, privately Evan's PR coach. And here's where the age factor kicks in. James is 25, Evan is 20. In the influencer world, that age gap might not sound extreme, but when allegations of manipulation and silence swirl, that power imbalance becomes a red flag. A big, bright one. Now, screenshots are all over Reddit, TikTok, YouTube exposés, you name it, and fans are zooming in, dissecting timestamps, and analyzing emojis like digital detectives. Because they don't just want an apology, they want the truth. And just as the internet reached peak fury, another name got pulled into the chaos: Zach Sears. And he wasn't just spilling tea, he was dropping legal threats. If there's one person who didn't flinch when James Charles dropped his carefully worded denial, it was Zach Sears. Zach isn't just a bystander in this drama, he's Evan Johnson's former close friend. And now, he's on a mission to call out what he says really happened behind the scenes. And spoiler alert, he's naming names, and James Charles is at the top of his list.
James's video did sound very convincing. He did not stutter and sounded very passionate about his truth. And before his response was deleted, the comments did seem to agree, not knowing what to believe anymore.
Zach has been relentlessly posting about the situation, exposing what he claims is James's shady behavior. But things really exploded when Zach posted a video saying his modeling agency received a legal email from James's team. Yep, actual legal heat. "They are now trying to silence me completely," Zach said in a TikTok video. "They don't want me to speak another word about this, but I'm just telling the truth." And that's where things shifted, because now it's not just a moral backlash, it's a potential legal battle. According to Zach, James's legal team contacted his agency directly, not him, a power move that many fans saw as intimidation. The email allegedly came from a firm representing James Charles Dickinson and requested a frank conversation about Zach's comments. But Zach, he wasn't having it. "Take your legal action," he clapped back in another post, "because I'm not lying, and I'm not scared." And here's where it gets really interesting. Kayla Malik herself enters the frame again. Zach has apparently been in direct contact with her. After watching her original YouTube videos about Evan, he reached out, apologized, and cut all ties with his former friend. During a recent sit-down interview, Zach FaceTimed Kayla live on camera. It wasn't staged, it wasn't performative. She picked up, thanked him, and said she supported him. Translation, she's standing behind Zach's version of the story, or at least parts of it, and that's a big deal. Because while Kayla can't speak publicly right now due to court restrictions, her silent nod to Zach says a lot. It signals that the walls around James's narrative might be crumbling. Now, with legal threats flying, Kayla's voice lurking just off screen, and fans dissecting every frame of every post, the heat is rising, fast. And James? Well, he tried to clear the air with one final statement, but the internet wasn't buying it. When the backlash wouldn't quit and the receipts kept stacking, James Charles finally spoke again, but not in a YouTube video, not on TikTok Live, just another Instagram story. This time, he ditched the cryptic tone and dropped a full-text slide that read, "I have never had any romantic or sexual relationship with Evan Johnson. I do not support him in any way, shape, or form."
After James posted that video, Zach made a response doubling down on everything he's accused James of, and says that he's looking forward to going to court against James Charles. Right before James dropped his response, Be Better made this video correctly predicting what James Charles was going to say.
"I was unaware of the accusations at the time we met, and once I found out, I cut off all contact. I condemn any and all harmful behavior and hope that Kayla gets the justice she deserves." At first glance, it sounded measured, controlled, like it had been drafted by a crisis PR team. But viewers weren't buying it, because the timeline didn't add up. By the time James and Evan were allegedly talking, or hanging out, as James admitted earlier this year, the accusations were already public. Kayla's videos were already out there. So, when James claimed he didn't know, fans were quick to call BS. And that wasn't all. Buried in the second half of the statement was the real twist. James threatened legal action against those spreading falsehoods, including Zach Sears and unnamed content creators. "I'm taking legal steps," he added, "because the lies have gone too far." But let's be honest, when an influencer leans on legal threats mid-backlash, it rarely lands as confidence. It lands as deflection. Critics saw it as a play straight from the YouTuber apology playbook. Deny, distance, discredit. Worse yet, people noticed the shift in tone. The original story was subtle, trying to minimize. This second one, it was defensive, almost aggressive. A lot less "I'm sorry" and a lot more "I'm suing." And for fans who had been through multiple James scandals, it felt familiar. Too familiar.
Earlier this month, this account, which is run by Zach, a friend of Evan's, was dropping receipts as to what Evan had been saying about Kayla. Zach posted a ton of videos with Evan downplaying everything and saying that Kayla was basically exaggerating.
One viral tweet read, "Apology videos turned into lawsuits, growth turned into gaslight. James Charles is back in his villain era." So while James may have drawn his legal line in the sand, the internet had already made up its mind. And as his team doubled down, viewers started looking the other way, toward his brand deals, sales charts, and subreddit threads. Because the real question wasn't if fans were leaving, it was how many had already gone. By the time James Charles posted his second denial, the numbers were already telling a different story. 700,000 followers gone on TikTok, thousands more trickling away by the hour. But this wasn't just about clout, it was about credibility. And brands were starting to notice. Over on Reddit, beauty forums and makeup subreddits lit up with refund threads. Longtime customers were posting screenshots of returned palettes, boycotting future drops, and openly questioning whether Morphe or any other collabs would stick around. One user wrote, "I can't support someone who weaponizes silence and then hides behind legal threats. I'm out." That one comment had over 8,000 upvotes in a single night. Meanwhile, YouTube's algorithm, which once favored James's lighthearted content, makeup challenges, style showdowns, click-heavy thumbnails, was now auto-suggesting expose videos. Titles like "James Charles: The Final Fall" and "He Was Never Sorry" dominated sidebars. Even creators who had previously avoided drama content started chiming in. Why? Because this wasn't a scandal that could be brushed off as messy DMs or a friendship gone sour. This was about someone allegedly aligning with an accused abuser, then attempting to walk it back only after a guilty verdict. Even worse,
he said that James is going to strategically share screenshots of text messages to paint a timeline for you. A timeline that's going to psychologically manipulate everyone and have people in a state of doubt.
For many fans, this entire situation came after what they thought was a redemption arc. In late 2023, James had been spotted spending Christmas with his family, specifically his younger brother, who had cut ties with him during his earlier scandals. The reunion was framed as personal growth, a symbol that James had matured. But now, that narrative was unraveling, fast. Some fans who once defended him now said they felt manipulated. Others called the past 2 years a carefully curated smokescreen. And when you lose both your new audience and your old defenders, that's not a bad PR week. That's a brand identity crisis. Sponsorships haven't publicly dropped yet, but they don't have to. Behind the scenes, you can bet PR departments are already in damage control meetings, asking the million-dollar question, is this partnership worth the risk anymore? Because the world of beauty influencers is cutthroat, and when a creator's name becomes synonymous with controversy, not color palettes, there's only so long the cash will keep flowing. And just when it looked like the backlash had peaked, it got philosophical. At this point, James Charles isn't just in another scandal, he's in the same one. Again. It's a cycle we've all seen before. Exposed. Apology. Silence. Comeback. Repeat. And people are finally calling it out. On TikTok, creators are comparing James to villains who never die, just reappear when the next generation forgets. One fan called him the influencer version of a software bug, patched but never fixed. For the past 2 years, James leaned into content that felt safe. Makeup challenges, styling games, pastel thumbnails. It worked. For a while. A younger audience came in. Many didn't even know about his past controversies. But now that the Evan Johnson situation has exploded, even those newer fans are scrolling back and realizing, this isn't new. This is habit. And the real kicker? People aren't just angry at James. They're angry at the system that keeps letting this happen. The brands that stay silent, the fans that give third and fourth chances, the algorithm that rewards drama once it dies down. So the question is no longer, what did James do this time? It's, why did we think it would be different? And just when it felt like the door might finally close on all of it, Kayla Malik hinted. She's not done talking. James Charles has survived more cancellations than most influencers combined. But this one feels different. Not because it's louder, but because people aren't waiting for his next comeback. They've moved on. The comments aren't just angry. They're done. Tired. Checked out. His followers are vanishing, his credibility's in free fall, and the trust he spent 2 years rebuilding, gone in a single slide. And now, all eyes are on Kayla Malik. The moment her court case wrapped, she liked a comment about James. That tiny gesture spoke volumes, and it's only a matter of time before she tells her full story. So, is this really the end of James Charles's influence? Or just another pause before the cycle begins again? Only time and Kayla will tell.